While he wasn't nearly as complete as a Derrick Rose or John Wall, if we're talking speed, quickness, and jumping ability, Robert Pack is right up there with them, and was one of the first little men who was a threat to posterize someone every game, and he was looking for those posters. He played fearless, but he also played reckless, as poor shot selection and turnovers plagued his career, but he was a blur running down the court in transition and had as quick a first step as you'd ever see, even in his later years. And whenever he went up for a dunk, it seemed like he was on an elevator, as he just kept rising. He spent 2 years at USC on one of the most athletic teams of the 90s. He went undrafted, but worked his way onto the Portland Trailblazers, where he made a name for himself as an energy player during their 92 finals run. After this, he would spend some exciting years in Denver, helping them make history in the 94 playoffs. But he would then bounce around teams the rest of his career, always looking like he was going to break through before an injury knocked him out. Robert Pack was far from a perfect player, but he was the definition of an exciting player. And it may be too much to say that he'd have been a star, but there's always a what if around the hyper-athletic players who can't escape the injury bug. And Robert Pack was one of those players. Let's jog your memory. A New Orleans native, Robert Pack grew up in the Fisher Projects, but would later relocate to the lower 9th Ward. At 10 years old, in his first Biddy basketball game, he scored all 29 of his team's points in a loss. By his teenage years, he would attend Alfred Lawless High School, and as Pack would say, he came in very under the radar as a basketball player, as his junior high coach had only informed the Lawless athletic staff about his football ability. Yet by his sophomore year, his coach Washington Wells would name Pack the starting point guard on varsity, where he'd form a dominant backcourt alongside senior Eldridge Rakasner. And Rakasner would later attribute Pack's football background to how he played the game on the basketball court. By the time high school came to an end, Pack was all-state and was committed to Southern Louisiana, but poor ACT scores would render him ineligible, so he would enroll at Tyler Junior College in Texas, where he would excel for 2 years. And by the end of his sophomore season, Pack had caught the attention of major programs, but after his first visit to USC, he knew it was the place for him, due to the campus atmosphere and the importance placed on education. There's little footage of Pack's USC days, so a brief summary of his Division I career would start with him joining a Trojans team who featured junior swingman Ronnie Coleman and a freshman star in Harold Miner. The Trojans were coached by George Raveling, yet hadn't had a winning season since 1985, and that wouldn't change in 1990. Pack played well, as he would lead the team in assists and steals, while finishing as one of 3 players to average double figures. But USC didn't have much scoring outside of their trio, and their defense wouldn't be much better, as they would record a 12-16 record and miss the tournament. However, they would pull off an upset win over their rival in 16th ranked UCLA on February 1st. The trio returned in 1991 and would each up their numbers, with Miner stealing the show. However, Pack would again lead the team in assists and steals, and again finish 3rd in scoring. And USC had not only improved their defense, but they were also scoring nearly 7 more points per game than last year. The Trojans started the year 8-1, before losing 4 straight, and overall finishing with a 19-9 regular season record, which did include another upset over UCLA. But their first winning season in 7 years also got them a tournament berth, where they would take on Florida State in round 1. The Trojans would lose by 3 after a poor performance from Miner, but Pack would step up with a team-high 20 points on over 66% shooting before fouling out, as his season and collegiate career was now over. But as had become the norm for Pack, he had once again flown under the radar. The 91 NBA draft would come and go without Pack hearing his name called, but even more surprising was that he wouldn't receive a single offer to attend any team's summer rookie and free agent camp. Pack didn't have a great jump shot, and his three-point shot was virtually non-existent. But what likely affected his draft stock the most was that his offensive role at USC was mainly to get the ball to Miner and Coleman, making him easily overshadowed. So, according to the 1992 book Against the World, Pack would latch on with a team sponsored by a radio station in the free agent division of the Southern California Summer Pro League. And when the league wrapped up, Pack had earned MVP of the free agent division. And luckily for Pack, Raveling had attended the Orlando pre-draft camp, and he was convinced that Pack was better than all the guards out there. So he would tell that to any scout who would listen. with one of those guys being the Portland Trailblazers Director of Player Personnel Brad Greenberg. And then after Portland saw Pack play in LA, they invited him to camp, where he beat out veterans like Walter Davis for a spot on the team. Pack was buried on a stacked Blazers team who were looking to make their second NBA Finals appearance in 3 years. The Blazers featured guys like Clyde Drexler, Terry Porter, Jerome Kersey, and Buck Williams, and also had a deep bench, so it didn't seem like Pack would see the court much. But over the first month of the season, he was a secret weapon for the Blazers, as a high-energy, change-of-pace player on a more veteran team, who would start seeing the court due to the poor play of Danny Young to begin the year. In the first 3 weeks of the season, Pack would hit double figures in 5 games, including an incredible fourth quarter performance in a November 15th comeback win versus Minnesota. The T-Wolves would lead by as much as 21 late in the third quarter, yet Portland would win by 5, as the fourth quarter saw Pack record 13 of his 15 points and play great defense on Pooh Richardson. Portland started the year slow, so Pack would get some chances, but once the Blazers found their groove, Pack would see less playing time, only recording double figures in 5 more games over the rest of a season in which he appeared in 72 games. For a Blazers team who finished at 57-25 and drew a first-round matchup with the Lakers. But Pack would barely see the floor throughout the postseason. He would appear briefly in all 4 games of the Blazers' first-round defeat of LA, then again would see brief appearances in each of the Blazers' 5 games in a second-round defeat of Phoenix. The conference finals versus Utah would see Pack receive action in 3 out of 6 games, as Portland advanced to the NBA Finals to take on Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls. Pack would see his most playing time in a Game 1 blowout loss, then would only see the court again briefly in Game 5, as Portland came up short, falling in 6 games, with Pack's rookie year seeing him average about 4.5 points, 2 assists, and half a steal per game. Over the offseason, the Blazers would sign point guard Rod Strickland, and to free up roster space, Pack would be shipped to the Denver Nuggets shortly before the 93 season. So Pack went from the best team in the West to a team that had just won 24 games in 1992, but they now featured Dan Issel as their head coach. Additionally, they would have a promising core, including players like Dikembe Mutombo and MAhmoud Abdul Rauf. Pack may have been in line for another small role, but injuries to Mark Macon and Brian Stith presented opportunity for Pack, and he ran with it. He would appear in a career-high 77 games for the Nuggets, even starting one of them, as in less than 21 minutes per game, Pack would lead the team in assists and finish as the only bench player to average double figures. This season would see Pack hit double figures in 42 games, including 8 games with at least 20, while also recording his first career double-double, with 14 points and 10 assists in a February 12th defeat of Philadelphia, as well as a 20-point, 13-assist outing in the second last game of the season versus Dallas. So Pack and Abdul Rauf brought a lot of excitement in the backcourt, and Denver as a whole had improved, as they would win 36 games this season. Unfortunately, this win total wouldn't be enough for a playoff berth, as Pack's second year ended with him averaging about 10.5 points, 4.5 assists, and a steal per game. The Nuggets had a new look going into 94, but the same personnel. Pack continued in his bench role, acting as the team's 6th man, but various injuries would limit him to just 66 games this year. He would see his scoring take a bit of a hit, but he made up for it by averaging 1 full assist more per game to again lead the team. Yet he also led the team with over 3 turnovers per game. But he was still great at what he was expected to do, which was push the pace on offense and bring defensive energy for one of the best defensive teams in the league. Although they weren't high scoring, the Nuggets were top 10 in points allowed, and Pack played a role in that, as he was second on the team in steals. On the offensive end, he would hit double figures in 32 games, including 2 with at least 20, while also recording 3 double-doubles. And the Nuggets weren't the best team, but they were keeping afloat, as they were sitting at 22-25 at the All-Star break. But this was an exciting time for Pack, as he was named as a participant for the Slam Dunk contest. Pack was looking to become the 2nd straight Trojan to win after Minor won it last year, and he would have a great performance, showing not only his leaping ability, but also his creativity, which he couldn't really display in-game. But even after some great dunks, like a double clutch reverse and a reverse 360, he wouldn't be able to take home the crown, as Timberwolves rookie Isaiah Rider would be named champion. But at the very least, Pack had familiarized himself with a lot of fans and gained some popularity. Post All-Star break, the Nuggets would play even better, as they would go 20-15 the rest of the way, to finish the year at 42-40, which would get them the final playoff spot in the West and a matchup with the top-seeded Sonics, as they were about to make history. Pack started very slow, as he would record 4 points in Game 1 and then 4 points in Game 2, on a combined 3 of 11 from the field, as the Nuggets fell behind 0-2, and it looked like the Sonics were heading for an easy sweep. But Denver would extend the series at home in Game 3, as even though Pack had 7 turnovers, he also had 11 points and 7 assists on 50% shooting. Game 4 would see Pack go for 13 points, but shoot just 4 of 12 from the field, yet he would also record 4 steals, as Denver would even the series at 2 games apiece. Game 5 was looking bad for Denver, as they trailed by 11 in the third quarter, but then Issel would sub in Pack for a struggling Abdul Rauf, and Pack would catch fire. Even while being defended by Gary Payton, Pack wouldn't back down and would embrace the physicality, and the Nuggets would begin to mount a comeback that saw them end regulation tied 88-all. And then they would make history when they outscored Seattle by 4 in overtime to become the first 8 seed to defeat a 1 seed in NBA playoff history, as Pack would finish with a game and playoff career high of 23 points on 8 of 15 shooting, as he would also hit a season high 3 shots from deep in the win, setting up a second round matchup with Utah. Pack would again come out flat, as in the first 3 games he was averaging about 9.5 points on less than 37% shooting, yet he was dishing 6 assists, but also committing 4 turnovers a night, as Denver fell into a 3-0 hole. But then over the next 3, Pack would average over 16 points and nearly 3 steals per game, as he would hit double figures in each game, but would again struggle with turnovers. Yet Denver had won all 3 games, to force a Game 7 and look for another upset. But it wouldn't happen, as they would lose Game 7 by 10 points, with Pack struggling with fouls and committing 5 turnovers, as Denver's season came to an end. But Pack's regular season had seen him average about 9.5 points, 5.5 assists, and 1 steal per game. After a poor showing in the postseason from Abdul Rauf and a good offseason from Pack, 1995 began with Pack as Denver's starting point guard. However, over the course of the season, they would split time at point guard, while rookie Jalen Rose would also get some time running the point. But Pack was putting up then career highs, as he was again leading the team in assists and now was tied for the team lead in steals, yet was again leading the team in turnovers. But overall, he was doing a good job with the increased role. He started the season on a tear, hitting double figures in 11 of Denver's first 12 games, including his first career 30-point game in a November 15th defeat of San Antonio, as well as his first career triple-double in a November 26th loss to Dallas, when he had 21 points, 10 rebounds, and 17 assists. Yet after missing a couple games in mid-January, he would lose his starting spot when he returned. Then about a month later, he would injure his knee, which would require arthroscopic surgery, as he would sit out most of the season. But the Nuggets were keeping themselves in the playoff hunt, so Pack would attempt to return in time for the postseason, but he would re-injure his knee in April, officially ending his season for a Nuggets team who finished at 41-41, but were swept by San Antonio in the first round, as Pack's shortened season had seen him average about 12 points, 7 assists, and 1.5 steals per game. But little did Pack know, his time in Denver had just come to an end. Just days before the '96 season, the Washington Bullets would trade for Pack. They had traded for former All-Star Mark Price of the Cleveland Cavaliers about a month earlier, but he would injure his foot in training camp. And even though Pack was coming off of injury, he looked great in preseason for the Nuggets, averaging 18 points and over 5 assists in 8 games. So the Bullets made a move for him, as they felt they were building something with their young forward duo of Chris Webber and Juwan Howard. But the Bullets would see a big chunk of their roster on the injury report this season. Unfortunately for Pack, his injuries would begin to steal his career, and it first became evident in Washington. But it would take some time before it looked like an issue, as Pack was showing out to begin the season. He would start in Washington's first 31 games, getting a career-high 35 minutes per game, as he would hit double figures in all but one game. He would average over 3 turnovers for the 3rd straight season and shot below 43%, but he was still doing a lot of good, averaging a career high in points, assists, and steals up to that point, as he would record 7 double-doubles and drop a career-high 35 points in a November 25th loss to Orlando, and Washington was sitting at a respectable 16-15. But Pack would be sidelined due to knee problems in early January, with the initial prognosis saying he would be out a couple weeks at most. But then it was discovered that he bruised a nerve in his right leg, which caused him to lose feeling in his foot. So now there was no set date for his return. And although he would come back to practice late March, he was never able to heal properly and wouldn't appear again for a Bullets team who finished at 39-43 and missed the playoffs, as Pac's short year saw him average about 18 points, 8 assists, and 2 steals per game. Over the summer, Bullets GM John Nash would be replaced with Wes Unseld, and Unseld would renounce the rights to Pac in July. Then shortly after, on July 31st, Pac would agree to a 5-year, $15 million deal with the New Jersey Nets, who had a new GM in John Nash. Pac joined a Nets team in transition, who had just drafted guard Kerry Kittles and featured Kendall Gill as their top player, and Pac would slot in as their starting point guard, and he was putting up solid numbers for the team, as he was even averaging nearly 10 assists per game, which included a career high of 22 dimes in a November 23rd defeat of Dallas. But his efficiency was becoming worse, as he barely shot above 40% and was averaging nearly 4.5 turnovers per game. He would appear in 34 of the team's first 51 games, but a sprained ankle had prevented him from playing in a game in nearly a month, when he was included in a package sent to the Dallas Mavericks on February 17th. Pac joined a Mavs team who were 17-31 and featured Michael Finley as their top player. Unfortunately, Pac would only appear in 2 of his first 17 games as a Mav, and overall would suit up just 20 times for the Mavs this season, while seeing a major dip in his numbers. But he would still end the year as a top 10 distributor in the league. But the Mavs finished the season at 24-58 and missed the playoffs, as Pac's overall season had seen him average about 14.5 points, 8.5 assists, and 1.5 steals per game. But Pac's unavailability after the trade would end up being foreshadowing for his time with the Mavs. The 98 Mavs looked similar to the team that ended the 97 season, but a 28-year-old Pac, who was supposed to be in his prime, could barely stay on the court. He would break a finger on his shooting hand prior to the regular season, which would keep him out until mid-December. He would come back as the team's starting point guard, but would struggle, as his numbers had dropped again and he was shooting below 34%. Then after appearing in 12 games, he would tear a ligament in his thumb, which required surgery and would ultimately end his year for a Mavs team who limped to a 20-62 record and missed the playoffs, as Pac's 12 games saw him average about 8 points, 3.5 assists, and 1.5 steals per game. To add more concern to Pac's health, he would have his knee scoped at the end of the 98 season, but was expected to be ready for 99. And luckily for him, he would get extra time to recover due to the lockout. But even so, Pac would only appear in 25 of the 50 games this year, and had also lost his starting spot to a third-year point guard named Steve Nash, who was one of 2 very important acquisitions the Mavs made over the summer. But as for Pac, after appearing in 21 games and hitting double figures in 8 of them, on improved but still not stellar efficiency, he would tear his hamstring in mid-March, causing him to miss about a month. He would return in mid-April, but after 4 games he would tear a ligament in his shoulder, which would require surgery and again end his season prematurely, for a Mavs team who finished at 19-31 and missed the playoffs, as Pac's season had seen him average about 9 points, 3 assists, and a steal per game. Going into 2000, Pac would get another opportunity to start, as Nash was still recovering from a back injury he sustained during the previous season, while also injuring his ankle in training camp, resulting in him coming off the bench to start the year and eventually sitting out for about 6 weeks, starting in early December. So Pac had began the season as a starter and was looking much better, as in his first 11 games, he was averaging about 12.5 points and 6.5 assists on over 49% shooting, which included a 3-game stretch in mid-November where Pac recorded a double-double in each game. But he would struggle with a groin injury this season, as after appearing in the team's first 11 games as a starter, he would only take the court in 18 more games this season, while starting 11 of those, as injuries had again stolen his year, as the Mavs would improve to a 40-42 record, but still miss the playoffs, with Pac averaging about 9 points, 6 assists, and a steal per game. But after playing in just 66 of a possible 214 games over the past 3 seasons, Pac was included in a historical trade. Pac would be part of the first 4-team trade in NBA history, as he would end up on the Boston Celtics. But he wouldn't make it to the regular season, as a couple weeks before it started, he would return to where he made a name for himself, as the Nuggets would acquire him from Boston. And while he wouldn't put up the same numbers he did in his first stint, he would have his healthiest season in years, as his 74 games would be the second most of his career. The Nuggets now featured forward Antonio McDyess, and Pack looked like the perfect backup for lightning-quick starter Nick Van Exel. The fan favorite Pack would have a solid year, as he would hit double figures in 22 games and record 21 double-doubles, while even registering a triple-double after a 12-point, 10-rebound, and 11-assist performance in an April 13th defeat of Golden State. And it would be the first time since his rookie year that he averaged less than 2 turnovers per game. Similar to Pack's time with Denver in the mid-90s, they were a solid team who would hover around 500, fighting for a playoff spot. Yet even though they finished 40-42, this time it wouldn't be enough for a berth, as Pack's season had ended with him averaging about 6.5 points, 4 assists, and a steal per game. After the season, Denver would elect not to bring back Pack, but this time teams wouldn't be calling for his services. Yet finally in late March, he would sign a 10-day deal with Minnesota, who needed guard depth after an injury to point guard Terrell Brandon, as Pack would join a T-Wolves team led by Kevin Garnett. Pack would struggle after his late start to the season, as he was putting up then career lows on his lowest minutes since his rookie year, but he was finally back on a playoff team, as the 50-32 Wolves would get a first-round matchup with Dallas, and Pack's old team would sweep his new team, with him playing just over 10 minutes across the 3 games and scoring a combined 3 points, as another short season for Pack saw him average about 4 points, 3 assists, and a steal per game. Pack would again be without a home to begin the 03 season, but once again he was brought in as insurance, this time by his hometown Hornets, after their star guard Baron Davis injured his knee. Pack would give the Hornets some bench scoring, as he would even have a 3-game stretch in late January where he averaged over 14 points and 7 assists. But when Davis returned, Pack saw his role diminish, as he would only appear in 6 more games. But the Hornets were solid and would manage a 47-35 record, which would get them a first-round playoff matchup with Philly, as the series would go 6 games, with Pack appearing in 4 of them. And in a Game 2 loss, he would even score 15 points on 6 of 9 shooting. But that would be his only scoring, as he would fail to find the bottom of the hoop in the other 3 appearances, with the Hornets losing in 6 games, as his season had seen him average about 5 points, 3 assists, and a steal per game. 04 would be another late start for Pack, as he would sign on with, but then be released by Portland prior to training camp, and then wouldn't sign with the team until mid-November when the Nets picked him up. Yet even though he appeared in 26 games, his contributions were minimal, with his best game coming in a December 23rd defeat of Chicago when he had 10 points, his only double-figure game of the season. Unfortunately for Pack, after appearing for 2 minutes in a January 25th loss to Boston, he would be waived the following day, ending his season and his NBA playing career, as Pack's 26 games had seen him average about 2 points, 1 assist, and a steal per game. Pack would then spend some time playing in Spain and Lithuania, with his season in Lithuania seeing him named All-Lithuanian LKL First Team and Guard of the Year, before he would be invited to the Raptors training camp prior to the 06 season, but would be cut in October, as he would make a career transition and would spend over a decade as an NBA assistant before coaching the Rwanda Energy Group of the Basketball Africa League. Robert Pack was never a star and likely didn't have the consistency or efficiency to ever be one, but he was great at what he did, and that was play hard and bring energy. His shot may not always fall, and he was prone to turnovers, but it was in part due to his supreme confidence. If you needed a change of pace, Pack could give you that, and if you needed to get the crowd into it, Pack was your guy. He was one of the best leapers of his era and could fly down the court as fast as anyone. He had a few seasons in the mid-90s where he looked like he was about to take the next step, but then injuries would get in the way. But averaging 14.5 points and 7.5 assists over a 3-year stretch is pretty impressive. And even with the injuries, Pack still was quicker than most, even in his later years. Some might say he's forgotten for a reason, but he gave maximum effort on offense and defense, and showed resilience in just getting to the NBA. And even if he didn't reach the same heights, he was one of the first little men to play the way that point guards do today, and doesn't get enough credit for it. But that's it for today's episode on Robert Pack. Hope you enjoyed it, and make sure to subscribe for more videos like this one. If you liked it, check out this one on his high-flying Trojan teammate, or this one on another forgotten guard he played with in Denver. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.